Regardless of whether you're starting your recruitment business or if you've already got one going, this video is going to give you some insight, possibly insight and some foresight into some of the challenges and problems that I've seen. And I'm sharing this based on my own experience and from working with a few people who I'm supporting with the growth and launch of their recruitment business. And I'm looking at some of the problems and challenges that they have, including expectations, where the probability of them going wrong or messing up is. And I've put all of this together, and I wanted to share that with you because it all comes down within a few pillars: niche, conversations, clients and candidates, then jobs, interviews, placements, in that order. And I'm going to break each one of them down, and I'm going to talk through where people go wrong, what the expectations are, and how sometimes things don't align. And also kind of reflect back on my own story as well. So if you are either in that journey or you're thinking about going on the journey, then I'm sure you will enjoy this video. And obviously, if you ever want any information on how I help and what I could help out with, then I'll leave a link to that below. So the first thing is niche. People spend either not enough time looking at their niche or too much time looking at their niche. So by too much time, what that means is that they become a little bit indecisive. There are so many good niche ideas out there, and when people are looking at the array of what's available, they become a little bit indecisive. And when they become indecisive, now it's like you can't decide which one to choose and which one to go for. And what I would recommend is that you pick something that is close to you. And this brings you on to what are the downsides as well and where people go wrong. And that is that they'll pick a niche and then they won't stay in it for long enough. Because if you pick a niche and you're in it for 30 days or 60 days, and then you think, you know what, I prefer a different one, and then you swap niche again, then it's as good as starting a recruitment business from scratch. I mean, you're at the earlier stages, but it's as good as starting from scratch, because you building trust and confidence with your clients is dependent on your experience in the niche that you're recruiting in. And if you swap from one niche to the other, then you don't build that trust and confidence with your clients. And when you don't build the trust and confidence, then you're not going to get to the next stage, which is going to be conversations and job orders from the clients that you're working with. So niche is a double-edged sword. You can either spend too much time on it, or you can spend not enough time on it. And you have to consider both, because if you're paralyzed by it, let's say a week later, and you're still trying to consider what niche you're trying to go for, then maybe you're lacking some information or some guidance on it. And if you are beyond that point where you've picked a niche and now you're doubting whether it's the right niche that you had picked, then you have to ask yourself, where's the doubt coming from? And why did you pick it in the first place? Because if there was no real thought that went into it, then the probability is the reason why you have doubt creeping in isn't because you're in a bad niche, is because maybe it's not working as quickly as you would have liked. And this is actually a really disappointing one when I see it from people new who are going into recruitment anyway, is that they might pick a niche not because it's close to them or they really wanted to go with it, but maybe they've seen somebody else who they thought is they thought they could just copy that person, and they pick a niche and they go into it, and then they don't really enjoy it or they don't really like it. They just believe that money can be made, and believe you me, money is not a good enough reason for picking a niche. Having said that, they pick a niche just because they've seen somebody else doing pretty well in that niche, and they think, you know what, I'm going to go into this niche as well. And they're not attuned with it, they're not in love with it, they don't enjoy it, and then eventually they get sick of it, and they haven't really picked a bad niche, and they're not doubting the quality of the niche. They're not actually doubting whether this is going to be profitable for them or not. They had misaligned expectations on how long this takes to turn around. So I thought at this moment it's worth mentioning what I was targeted on when I started in recruitment. And my targets were basically, I need to generate one new candidate a day, and I need to have 2 client conversations a week. That is it. I wasn't targeted on how many job orders we pull in, or CV send came a little bit later, but right at the beginning it was just conversations with clients, and that is it. So when people get frustrated with their niche, it's because of misaligned expectations. That's one part of the equation. The other part is that they might have actually picked the wrong niche. So I'm going to address both. Misaligned expectations is how long does it take in recruitment to actually get a client to want to talk to you and want to work with you. If they're not hiring, we're not sure. We had a client recently who I signed terms with nearly a year ago, and we did our first bit of business with them this year. So it took a year for them to convert. Some people don't have that patience. Most people are not prepared to wait that long, and they're not prepared to nurture a relationship for that long. But now that we've done this one placement, I'm pretty sure there's going to be another one that comes through a lot sooner. I mean, not every client takes a year before you get to that point, but the point is that you can't force somebody to hire and you can't force somebody to change jobs. You can only advise them, and that is the job of a recruitment consultant. So, you pick a niche. That's one thing, which is the expectation part of it. The other part of it is making sure you're picking a niche where, number one, there's a demand for those positions and professionals, and number two is that the salaries are reasonably high. And I say that because if you're going to charge 20% as a recruitment consultant, then you can charge 20% on a 20k salary, or you can charge 20% on a 200k salary. Same amount of work, just get paid more on the higher salary. So when it comes to your niche, try and pick one where the salaries are a little bit higher, because you're only walking into more problems for yourself. There's a few other criteria as well that I share for those who work with me, because I believe this is the most important part. And I say that because if you have a target to build a recruitment business that makes 20k a month, 50k a month, 100k a month, or even beyond that, you have to pick a niche that actually supports that level of demand. Because if you pick a niche where 100k a month is just not even possible in your location, which I don't think there's too many niches where that is not possible, but the niche has to support your dreams and your vision for your business, because if it doesn't, then it's not going to work. So, or at least you'll be looking at going into different niches as you expand or try and grow your business. So niche is really, really important, but at the same time, it shouldn't be a paralyzing thought. That's part one. And not going deep enough into the niche, or not being in love with the niche that you choose and not sticking at it long enough, can cause problems. Because if you don't stick at it for more than 3, 4, even 6 months, guess what? You might be really close to cracking in and getting some placements through the door, but you've decided to change niche, and you're going to start again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and this becomes an endless loop before people decide, you know what, forget it, I'm not going to do this. So that's niche. That's part of it. Once you've got your niche dialed in and you know exactly what you're going for, you've committed to it, and you're going to stay in it long term, and you set yourself a target to have 2 client conversations a week, the next step is literally how many conversations can you possibly have? Because you don't need to now question, are the clients even hiring? Like, you already know that. You can see loads of jobs listed on job boards. You can see them, in their posts on LinkedIn or whatever other social media posts that you follow them on. So when you consider all of these things, the demand is definitely there. The difference is, are they using you or are they not using you? And these are the things that will go through your mind, and you're going to question it. So now the next pillar that goes into building a business, so the recruitment business, so starting off with niche, the next part is the conversations that you have with clients and candidates. Aim to have 1 a day candidates, and aim to have 2 a week with clients. How you have those conversations is completely down to you. You can cold call them, you can cold email them, you can LinkedIn message them, you can find them on Instagram, you can find them on Twitter. Like, they exist everywhere on every single social media platform. And I say social media because it's probably the simplest and easiest way, because anybody can set up an account and then go and find the name of somebody and see if it works. You being able to connect with that person and then get them engaged with you and want you to have a conversation with them is the next step. How do you do that? How quickly do you do that? How quickly are you able... How long does it take for somebody who connects with you on LinkedIn to the point that they're on a phone call or on a Teams or a Zoom call with you? That's a measure in itself. So a really skilled recruiter could connect with someone and be on a call with them on the same day as somebody who's not so good or lacks some experience. It could take them a few weeks. Either way, the more visible and front of mind that you are with your clients, that is what's going to allow you to have as many conversations as you possibly can. So now whatever you can do to speed things up. So this might be you being more organized. This might be you being more optimized in the way that you work. This might be that you adopt the right software and technology and so on. When you consider all of these things, then they allow speed. It allows you to speed up how quickly you're able to have conversations with clients and candidates. And the faster you can speed it, the more speed you can put into it, the better it is for you. Because if you can speak to lots of clients and lots of candidates and make contact with them, even better. And you can speed things up in a few ways. You can hire people to do more of the work that you're doing, or you can use software to help make things a little bit quicker for you. So that's one part. So now you've got your niche sorted, and the next part is how quickly can you have conversations with them. Same thing here. When people go wrong at this point, it's a case of I connected with 100 people and that's enough. For like, I wouldn't take a sample size of less than 1,000 to start off with. So 100 is not enough, and you have to consider from a pool of 1,000 companies who might be hiring for 100k a year salaries, how many of them are actively hiring right now and deadly serious about making that hire right now? 5-10 of them, maybe. Cool. Then either we need to increase the number of people that we're talking to, or we need to increase our client base. Like either way, you can break everything down brick by brick and turn around and say, okay, cool, that's the thing that's missing here, that's the thing that's missing here. So right at base level, it's niche. Next part is conversations. Clients and candidates, how quickly you can have them, how meaningful these conversations are, how relationship based they are. I try and avoid the transactional ones, but we can go transactional then lead into conversational or relationship based. But me personally, I like leaning into the relationship based approach in recruitment. So now, niche, conversations, very natural next step is that one of these people that you're talking to is going to turn around and say, you know what, I'm actually hiring, can you help me fill this position? Or it'll be a candidate and they'll say, I'm considering a move, can you help me find a suitable opportunity? Your job is not to force somebody to give you a vacancy or to force somebody to change jobs. Your job as a recruiter, including mine, is just to be front of mind, is to be at the forefront of someone's mind when it comes to thinking about either hiring or changing jobs. As long as you're front of mind for them in those two situations, they will come to you. 100% they'll come to you. And the example that I give to especially some of the people that work with me is we want to think of it like as if, imagine your best friend opens up a restaurant and you have some visitors from out of town and they say, hey, look, we want to eat at a restaurant on the way out. Whether your friend has the best food or not, you're going to recommend your best friend's restaurant, because now it doesn't make a difference who has the best Google reviews or Trustpilot reviews or wherever else these reviews are counted, or has the biggest Instagram following. Is that no, we are going to the restaurant that my friend owns. So now the same principle applies to the clients and candidates. If you can build relationships with them, now they will see you as a friend or a mate. And if they see you as a friend or a mate, then guess what? There is no competition. There is nobody who they can turn to and say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to use that guy. I'm going to go to a different person because I prefer working with the other person. Like there's no option. They just have to work with their friend. So if you can get your niche right and you can do the right amount of conversations, eventually your clients are going to give you vacancies and the candidates are going to come to you and say, hey, okay, I would love for you to help me with this. And then something amazing happens after that. And it's interviews. And that is that you start to match the candidates who are looking for new opportunities with clients who are hiring for these opportunities, and you match them into interviews. Some of them are going to turn into placements. And that's, from a pillar perspective, that is the core of a recruitment business. Now, you can package that together and you can do that job yourself. You can hire 10 other people to do the same job for you. But they're the core pillars. And if I reverse engineer it and you just say, okay, how many placements do I want to be making a month? So let's just say you're recruiting 100k a year salaries and 100k a year salaries, and you're charging 20%, so 20k fees, and you want to make 5 placements in a month, 100 grand in a month. Simple math, okay? 5 placements in a month. For you to get that kind of conversion, you have to ask yourself, what does my data say about how many interviews I get that actually convert into placements? Okay, so now you'd be a very good recruiter if this is the case, but we do measure this. We measure how many interviews somebody gets and how many placements they actually result in. So now anybody who gets like a 70% conversion, that means for every 10 interviews, 7 of them turn into placements. Brilliant recruiter, doing very, very, very well from a matching perspective. Okay, if they get a really low conversion, so every 10 interviews, 3 of them convert into placements, not so good. Okay, and obviously the lower you go, the lower it is. We try and get our consultants to 60% or higher, but you've got to measure this based on your data, and especially if you're starting out in your recruitment business, you don't have any data. We need to actually track some numbers into a spreadsheet and then figure out what's working and what's not before we can actually adjust anything. But if you want to target yourself and make 5 placements in a month, we have to track back and just say, okay, if my conversion is at, let's say, 50%, right in the middle, okay, and I want to make 5 placements, then I need to have 10 interviews happening in my pipeline at any given time, because those placements are going to drop in. So now we go backwards and we say, okay, if I have 10 interviews happening, how many job orders and candidates do I need to book in with those jobs before I actually get the placements? And if you're filling, again, let's just say it's 50%, then you need to have 20 jobs. So if you've got 20 jobs, 10 interviews, and you get 5 placements, then you're doing okay from a conversion perspective. Now, at each and every stage, if something doesn't work out, client or candidate drops out, client is not taking it seriously, candidate is not taking it seriously. I put together some training on my YouTube channel. By all means, go and find that video and go over it. But the reason why any client or candidate might drop out or change their mind or not pay, regardless of how you're working from a recruitment perspective, the reason why they won't work is because they haven't been qualified properly. That is it. We haven't qualified the client properly, we haven't qualified the job vacancy properly, and that is it. So now if you're working to these kind of numbers, then you're doing okay. Eventually you're going to get to a point where the numbers and placements are all going well, and this is where it gets interesting. This is where recruitment business is all of a sudden, and I went through this journey as well. It's like we think, you know what, let's see if we can do something crazy. Let's try and consider changing business model or completely doing something completely different or stepping outside of our niche. And what happens is you end up diluting yourself. So the growth of the recruitment business, my view, my experience, and from what I've seen so far as a pattern as well, the growth of a recruitment business is not dependent on the direction that you push the business in one form or the other. It's dependent on where your clients are going to want your services. So if you are doing really, really well for a pool of clients in one location, London, New York, California, Berlin, wherever you're recruiting, and that pool or that niche can be replicated in another location, in another part of the country or another part of the world, guess what? It's really easy for you to duplicate your entire operation over there. Whereas if we go for a completely different location or a completely different job title or a completely different discipline or specialism or something like that, which is effectively a new niche in the same location, it doesn't work as well. Or if we try and change the way that we're going about doing things. So I'm only sharing this because there's several ways to run a recruitment business. You can do contingency, you can do retained, you can do contract, temp, freelance, staffing, kind of all comes under there, and then there's RPO. These are 4 core models, and I've considered all of them. There was a point in time where possibly I was considering more than what I should have, and at the end of the day, we always consider what is the shortest and simplest route to success. And the shortest and simplest route to success isn't to change anything that you're already doing. The shortest and simplest route to success is to amplify what you're already doing and see how much more you can do. So considering all of this, I hope this has been valuable anyway, because I want to make sure that you can see some of the challenges and problems that you will encounter as part of the journey of growing or trying to grow or even starting a recruitment business. And that is that you will get stuck and challenged at every single stage of the business. And at every single stage of the business, you want the next phase to happen, but it happens in its own time. I.e., the things that you want to happen usually lie on the fine line of what is in your control and what's out of your control. What is in your control is what niche you pick, how active you are in that niche, how quickly you reach out to your clients and your candidates, at what speed do you do that. This is completely in your control. What's not in your control is what happens if your clients just decide to put on a hiring freeze for the year. What if your candidates all decide that they don't want to change jobs at the moment? There's so many things that can happen that are outside of your control, and a lot of the times people will measure their success based on things that are happening or are going to happen outside of their control. Instead, we focus purely on what's in our control. This is how I do things, and this is how we do it in our business. We focus purely on what is inside our control, and as long as we are doing the right level of activity consistently, predictably, and the results we just know are inevitably going to follow, because these are the things that need to happen. And I gave this example to someone else recently as well. I don't know who it is because I only gave this example to one person. When there's somebody who goes to the gym. It's like somebody going to the gym. You can have the right diet, you can have the perfect training program, and you start going to the gym. And there's one person who 2 or even a month in, they're seeing really, really small signs of results, but because they're experienced at going to the gym and training there very regularly and exercising, because they're experienced, they're turning around, they say, you know what, I've seen some really good progress this month. And then there's another person who goes to the gym and it's been 1 month and they're getting really frustrated, like, why the heck have I not got a six-pack yet? And it just doesn't happen in that kind of time frame. So the speed and pace at which you can get a six-pack in the gym depends on how good you are and how regimented you are at sticking to your diet and your training program. Now, is it likely to happen after a month? Well, I need to assess where you are right now, but is it likely to happen after 6 months? Maybe some visibility within a year, possibly. Like, it depends on where you start. And this is like the difference of when somebody starts, where they're going and where they're heading, because the journey is always the same, meaning that you have a destination. What you could have is you have 2 different personal trainers and they're all advising you, no, don't do that many reps, do this many reps. Like, it's just going to get confusing. So now, if you are on a journey, number one, to try and take advice from one person, not 3 different people, because you try having 3 different sat navs on that have 3 different routes plugged in on your car while you're driving. It is chaos, because if you miss one, then it just messes up the entire thing. So it takes you longer to get there as well. So if you're gonna take advice from one person and focus in on it, and on top of that, stick to what you're good at. And if you haven't become good at anything, then it's going to be that you have to become good at what niche you're picking and the conversations that you have with your clients and candidates. And as long as you become good at those things, everything else falls in place. So when somebody says, I'm a good recruiter, then usually it's because they're measuring the number of placements that they do. But the reason why they're doing placements is because they do a lot of interviews, and the reason why they do a lot of interviews is because they have relationships and conversations with their clients and candidates, and the reason why they do that is because they've been focused in on their niche in a really good time. So is it possible to make a very healthy income in year 1 in recruitment? It's possible, but the probability of you doing it in year 2 is way higher. And that's why I said right at the beginning that it's really important that you pick a niche that you're going to stick to. Don't just jump to one, because sometimes your doubts in terms of the niche that you've chosen, it might be coming from the fact that you don't like the niche, or because you didn't anticipate how difficult it was going to be. Not because not because it actually is a difficult niche or because you've actually chosen the wrong niche, because you followed the right steps and you picked the right niche. You just didn't try hard enough, you didn't stay in it long enough. And sometimes, like, the amount of people that I see, like, will launch like one email campaign into this niche and then see what happens, and then nothing happens. They're like, oh, I failed. Like, no, you did not. In our company, we're launching somewhere between 30 every single week, and we still do that. And a lot of the times, the example that I gave to the same person as well about going to the gym, a lot of the time you just have to put in the reps. And as long as you put in the reps, you will become strong. Because at the end of any business journey, and business is always harder than whatever you imagine it to be, at the end of any business journey, it's not the business that became good, it was you. Like, you as the entrepreneur, the driver, the leader of the business, it's you that changed and it's you that became better. And every time you are more refined in the way that you work and the way that you approach things, then you will lead and maneuver this business in the right direction, and the business will perform, not because the business has become easier, it's because you as an entrepreneur have become better. So I hope that's provided some valuable insight. If you'd like my help with this, I'll leave some information below. There's a link below that you can check on, and I'll see you next time.